Hello and welcome to today's live stream here on my opera and classical singing channel. I see someone's already here. And today I want to actually answer a very specific question. But hi, Florista. Let me read your comment. Hi, Freya, and thank you. I would like to know what determines whether you can sing high or not. I mean, is it more the anatomy or the technique? Oh, and I'm going to totally touch on that when I answer the question today. Can anyone learn how to sing opera or classically? Well, really the answer is yes. Anyone can learn it. But the level to which you're going to master it depends on a lot of different factors. Of course, you are born with your voice. Your vocal cords are the ones that you have, and even your speaking voice, that is just the voice that you have. However, you may have heard some voice actors or like voiceovers, or when you listen or when you watch cartoons, and you will hear what a range of voice colors the human voice has, even in the speaking voice. So I'm speaking very normally right now in my speaking range, but I could also go like, ooh, the boogie monster's gonna get you. Or I could say, oh, there's an itsy bitsy spider climbing up the, climbing up the spout. Itsy bitsy spider. See, I can make all these different colors we'll get into it, how we're going to do this, but I can create different sounds. So you were born with a very specific voice. However, you can do a lot to optimize the sound of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I believe that anyone can theoretically learn it. Now, how fast you're going to learn it and how far you can go depends on how fast you can learn. It also depends a lot on your body awareness. Singing has a lot to do with body awareness, because you can't actually see a lot of the things that you need to do in singing, because they're kind of like on the inside. You can't see, like if I tell you, can you engage your thyroarytenoid muscles more? There's no way you can know how to do it. I don't even know, I know what it feels like overall in my voice, and I know that then if I do certain things, then that is the thyroarytenoids being more engaged. But I also know how to lower or raise my larynx, but these are not the type of things that are as, simple as like, raise your right hand. That is not that simple, because we in everyday life, we are not aware of those muscles. So a high level of body awareness. Hi Sherry, hi Raleigh, hi Georg. Faithful as always, you're here. Your body awareness is huge, and I feel like you can get to a higher level of body awareness when it comes to singing when you connect. When you have to start connecting the difference in sound to the difference of how the difference of feelings. Like, how does it sound different when I do certain things? And how does it feel different when different sounds come out? And a lot of times I have had many students where I'm like, for me, it was always very easy to kind of over exaggerate and do all these different voice colors. Even when I'm speaking, I usually speak in a very animated way. Like even when I speak to my kids, and if I read like a kid's book, I always used to read every single night when I tucked my oldest daughter into bed. I always read a book with her, and the twins are still kind of like they don't let me. Basically, I would love to read to them, but they won't let me. They rip the book away and it's like, no, I want to have it. So I would read, there came the tiny bitty mouse, and then the dragon came and spit fire. So it's easy for me to make all these different sounds in my voice and to sound very animated. But I know that this is not the case for everyone, even in the speaking voice. And to have a higher level of awareness of that range of colors you can have in your voice, you have to dare. You have to to get that awareness, that body awareness. You have to just make bigger differences. You have to go all the way to darkening, like la 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 la, and then all the way to making it very nasal and narrow and bright, la 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 la. So by doing this, I'm completely aware of the full range of motion certain muscles can create and can have. And I think a lot of singers are just not, they don't take enough risks. So you have to take risks. And when it comes to classical singing, we really need to experiment. Maybe we need to get a little bit more extreme than we thought we needed to be. So it's not enough when I say, create a large space in the back of your throat. It's not enough just to go, oh, oh. So I have to go farther and just take more risks and maybe even start sounding a little extreme for a moment. So when it comes to women, for example, women wanting to have a more full classical sound, I always think of like, what do you think of when you think of like the proverbial classical diva? Not until the fat lady sings. If you're American, or like English speaking, I think it's like, well, when the fat lady sings. It's like I don't know where that even comes from, but it's always like, even in the movie Independence Day, not until the fat lady sings. It's like when the fat lady sings, that's when everything's over. It's like when the fat lady sings, that's it. So, and I don't know why there's this cliche of like an opera singer has to be like this large person. Totally not true. Totally not true. It could be a larger person. It could be a small, tiny person. It doesn't matter. The voice, it's here, right? The body size is not really that relevant. I've met very tiny singers who have a gigantic voice, and I've met people who don't have a tiny body who have but small voice. But you can have an influence on that. So where was I now? The fat lady sings. So as a lady, if you wanted to have a fuller sound, just think of that proverbial opera diva. Oh, right? You want to think of it that way. If it's hard for you to get even close to the sound that you think it should, that it should be when you sing classically, think of the fat lady. Think of the, how do you call a male diva? Is a divo or sounds like, ah? Think of a Wagnerian singer. Wagner, it's like big orchestra and big sound. You have to fill the concert hall. It's like, ha! And that's only to help you kind of feel the largeness, the massiveness of how your body is involved. And I'm just thinking of this now because I know Georg is here. We actually talked about brightening it up and bringing the sound more forward because Georg was actually here at my studio and we did like an intensive day. And it was too far in the back. So what we also don't want is to cover it up. But we want to bring it also forward to add bright overtones. But we need the space in the back. And then we need to direct the sound waves that are created to hopefully resonate as much as possible everywhere. I just talked about this in our monthly group coaching session in the online singing school. We just talked a lot about resonance. Now, of course, the dog has to bark now. So yes, everyone can learn to sing opera or classical music, but it's so important that number one, your voice, you have to be aware of the fact that your voice, you cannot compare it to someone else's. You can copy their technique, but you cannot copy their voice. You're not going to sound like someone else. But it's a good idea to listen to other singers to kind of see what they're doing and model after them. If it's a good singer, if they have good habits, then it's a good idea to model after them. You don't want to copy, but you want to model their good habits. You want to ask yourself, how do they create this? What technique do they use to sound full, to sound resonant, to sing higher, to sing non-nasal? Hi, Florista. Yes. And are you from Germany too? Fröhlich? Because that is definitely a German name. So, and I basically, I answered a lot of what you asked, Florista. whether you can sing high or not, like singing high, yes, partially has something to do with your anatomy and your voice type. Not everyone has a voice that's going to go up, like talking about females right now. Not everyone can go up to an E6. Not everyone can. Well, I could argue that probably a lot of singers could learn it, because you would have to then to get into your whistle register, which is maybe very hard for some voice types, but it's not impossible. But that is definitely, from Austria. Grüß Gott, yeah. It doesn't have to be everyone's strength. So yes, your vocal range, or where your voice sits, your tessitura, your range overall, does depend on your anatomy, just the way you were born. But you can do a lot to train it. So not everyone is a high soprano and not everyone is a tenor. There are basses. So a bass will definitely have a voice that sits much lower than a tenor's voice. It's just the anatomy. Just like not everyone has tiny, thin legs. Even, some people, you could work out and be very slim and have very low body fat percentage, but naturally, some people have thinner legs than others. It's just, we're just all different. And, some people have long, thin fingers. Like I have very thin fingers. If I buy a ring, I have to buy a child size because everything else is too big for me. And it's only because the way I was born, I'm not extremely I'm normal, I would say, body size wise. I'm not very thin or I'm not fat either, but it's like just average, normal. But then there are people who they're maybe very thin, but maybe they have thicker fingers than me. And it's just because of the way we were born. It's genetic. But apart from the genetic, there's a lot you can do. Just like you could do with your body. You can sculpt, you can body build, you can build your muscles. And you can also build your voice. And think of building your voice like an athletic thing. It's like an athletic activity. Especially when you sing classical music, it is like being an athlete. It's not just like, you wouldn't as an athlete, you wouldn't just get up in the morning and think like, I think I could probably run a marathon in 3 days. So you can't expect that if you're not trained. And the same holds true for the voice. You can't expect to sing high if, let's say right now, your highest pitch is a G5, talking about ladies again right now, of course. Then it's probably not realistic that in a couple months you're going to have that E6. Probably not. But with the right technique, you could probably get it up maybe to a C6 even. A lot of it does depend on tweaking your technique. So the good news is singing higher is something that pretty much everyone can work on. You can always gain more pitches on the top if you are not extremely trained. I mean, once you have kind of trained, and then there's definitely a limit. It's not like, oh, I'm going to train for 20 years. I'm going to sing higher and higher and higher. And then, there are limits to what the human voice can create. There's a range of these are the lowest sound waves a human voice could possibly create. And yes, there are outliers who can sing lower than everyone else, but there's still this framework of this is just what the human voice can do. And basically, our human voice is not made to create frequencies that we can't even hear. There's no point in that. So a dog can hear other frequencies. A dog can hear frequencies that are so high that our brain can't interpret. We can't hear it anymore. We are not perceiving this. But we have definitely a limit even when it comes to the voice. And on the low end, you can work on it a little bit, but there is a more defined limit to how low you can train your voice to go. You can relax more, but your vocal cords can't get shorter and thicker than the most relaxed state that could be in. While they create still a pitch. Can't go lower than that. But on the high end, you can maybe train them to stretch even a bit more and to be more tight. and to have better closure and to have less air traveling through and to have more pressure in your airstream. So the high end is definitely much more workable. And so it is, and I have videos about that. It's a lot about creating space. So anything up to the high C, like a C6 for women, it has a lot to do with that space in the back of your throat. Because when you're narrow, I literally can't even go higher. So I'm trying to keep an open throat. You could see as I go up, it kind of went up the back of the tongue. So there is an adjustment. And then when it gets really high, it needs to be more narrow again. But I see this most sopranos who have a hard time singing higher. It's because they are too narrow. It's like versus see, you can see raise that soft palate. I know, easier said than done. But the topic today isn't really how to do it. The topic is, can you do it? And yes, you can learn it. And now I'm going to take your questions because I wanted to keep these live streams sort of, not short, but not too long, maybe up to 30 minutes or shorter. So any questions, any other questions here about the topic that we're on today? Like, can anyone learn to sing classically? And I would be interested, everyone here. Now, of course, I know some of you. Florista, I do not know you, but Raleigh, maybe you could also. Sherry, I know you. Georg, I know you. Eileen, I know you. Can you maybe comment, where are you on your journey? Do you feel like you have hit the ceiling when it comes to singing high? Or do you feel like with more training, you could definitely work on singing higher? I know it seems sometimes like you're working a lot on it and it's just not happening, that you're adding more range on the top. But I think it has a lot to do with if you're doing it right. Just trying to push high pitches isn't maybe going to help you. You have to do it right and you have to do it in a healthy way. And which is hard to figure out on your own. It's much easier with a coach who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, you might really strain your voice. So I'm currently really working on that high end because I have, I want to sing that E flat 6 and E and F. I want to sing it reliably, but I know a lot of how to do it. I know exactly what I need to do and I know why it doesn't work when it doesn't work. But again, knowing how to do it and actually doing it are two different things, but you first have to know it so you can potentially even do it. And I know what to do because I know the mechanics and what it takes to actually get into whistle tone. Trying to learn that coordination right now, especially that transition from head voice to whistle tone up there when it has to get very narrow and very, like when it comes to vocal cords and like not a lot of air, it's almost like inhaling. Hi Audrey. So I'm just taking questions now. I'm basically through with my answering the question of the day, if anyone can learn to sing opera and classical singing. And now I'm just taking question. Hey, SG Dietz. Good morning from Baltimore. Good morning, Baltimore. I love that song. You know the song? Probably do. From Hairspray, from the musical. Every day's like an open door. So I like the song. Taking your questions now. Especially I would like to know if you, like anyone here, do you have the feeling like you have completely hit the ceiling when it comes to hitting higher pitches? Or do you feel that, yeah, I'm working on it and something is working. I feel like I have already increased my range and I kind of know how to do it. Because I think that's a big topic a lot of times. It's like, do you have the feeling? Because right now I might not be where I want to be, but I know that the process I'm using is actually yielding some results. So I just need to continue and focus and just continue to practice. Like I said, as a singer, you're like an athlete, and an athlete has to train. And it's a matter of training and repeating and strengthening the muscles and the coordination. And that's Is that where you're at? And, or do you feel like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like I know all of it, but it doesn't matter what I do. There's just no way I'm going higher than this. John Waters, did he write that? A Baltimore native. I'm not sure right now who wrote the entire show. I sound like a soprano but cannot sing higher than G. Oh, you mean the zweigestrichenes G. Like in Europe, we have a different system. Or at least in Germany and Austria, I know it's like, we have like the middle C, and then we have like the eingestrichene C, zweigestrichene C. We have a different system here. Like in the in American systems, it's like always like a G4, G5, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah, increasing your range. You can definitely learn to sing higher than the G. I think any woman, any female can sing higher than a G. I think a G doesn't need to be the highest. Georg says, it's still difficult for me to gain the lightness for the high notes. Yeah, you don't want to, of course, scream them out and just yell like, nah! Especially as a male singer, this is a problem, especially for tenors. A lot of times, when the pitch gets too high, when it's not well supported and just yelled when you're just pushing it outward too much. You think of more like being intense, but more like implosive instead of explosive. You're still working and struggling. It is a long process. Oh, he wrote the original movie in the 80s. Yeah. The original one. Okay, I don't think I know the original one. I have to work a lot on the high notes, but I do carefully not to force. Good. If I am training alone. That's good. Do you have a coach? Because I think especially when you want to do things such as expanding your range and doing really difficult things that you might not be sure if you're doing it right, it's a good idea, at least for a short period of time or even just for a few lessons, to have a coach so you have on your radar what to watch out for and what your habits are and what your pitfalls might be and what you are doing wrong that could potentially hurt your voice. And then once you know the things, I think it's actually a good idea to have like phases of having a vocal coach. You understand what I mean? It's like having a phase where like, okay, now I'm in the phase of taking in new information and checking I want someone to check everything I'm doing. And once I have basically consumed everything they have to offer me, then I'm pausing that. And then I'm in the phase of I'm working it out. Now, of course, you can have that phase every week. If you have like your lesson on Wednesdays, you can have your lesson on Wednesdays. And then until next Wednesday, you are in the phase of working on your own while knowing all the things your teacher told you. Or you could be in a phase of, professionals usually do this. They have a short phase of having someone professionally check up with them. And then they have a longer phase of working on their own because you have a high level of awareness because you already have a good level of mastery. And so you just need someone from the outside to look in. Everyone, even the best singers in the world, we always need someone from the outside looking in and telling us, oh, you need to check up on this and maybe try that. I'm always grateful for new suggestions. It's like, oh, maybe I haven't thought about that yet this way. I just recently went on the hunt of like, it's really hard to find anything really good. I didn't find really much about classical singing and singing. Like, I didn't find a single tutorial or video about transitioning from head voice to whistle, because I think that's a little hard. I think coming back from whistle to head voice is easy, but from head voice to whistle to that lightening up, when you get too heavy, it just doesn't work. That's my own personal thing I'm working on right now. But again, with the knowledge and with the practice and just repeating and just training the muscles, it does get better. I feel a big difference the past couple months, maybe for 2 months or less than 2 months. No, maybe about 2 months I've been working on this. Big difference, big difference. I studied with coach many years. Not easy sometimes find good coaches. Yeah, I know. I know not everywhere, like when you are located in a place maybe where, well, nowadays there's a lot of online, but even then it's really hard to know, like, it's not just about what do they know, it's also about do you like them? Do you have a vibe with them? And I think because singing is such a personal thing, it's your voice, it's personal. It does matter whether you really vibe with someone. You want to have the feeling you really trust the person. I can sing higher than A5, but quality of that tone is not so good. Yeah, that's normal. Like I'm working on that right now. I'm working on improving the quality of that E flat and E on the top. So it's not just, it doesn't just need to be squeaked. I wanted to open it up more and have it resonant so it connects to everything else I'm doing before that, which is right now quite a challenge. Okay. Thank you everyone for hanging out. It's been 26 minutes, so I wanted to keep these like 30 minutes or below. I don't know if I'll be back next week, but check back. If you're on my email list, you will get an email about this. If you are not on my email list, why not? Make sure you check back on this channel. I think everyone here is probably subscribed. And if you're watching this later, do subscribe, because I'm going to probably mainly go live because I don't have that much time to record. I record 3 videos every week for my other channel. And so here I'll probably do a bunch of lives. And next time I really do probably want to look at some videos and do kind of an analysis of some good singers that I love. Maybe I'll just share some of my favorite singers in the classical world, and I'll tell you why I love them so much, why they are my role models. Okay, everyone be blessed, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye.